Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into one of the most transformative periods in all of human history. We're talking about a time when the entire world was completely remade, not by armies or kings, but by machines.
So, to get us started, let's kick off with a really big question. If you think back across the last 10 millennia, all the way back to the dawn of agriculture, what single event changed absolutely everything for humanity?
The answer might not be what you'd expect. Sure, empires rose and fell, huge wars were fought, and explorers charted the entire globe. But for most people, the fundamental way they lived their lives, it stayed remarkably the same for centuries. That is, until this moment.
Yep, the most profound change was driven by invention, by industry. We're talking about the Industrial Revolution. And it didn't just tweak the course of history, it literally forged the modern world that you and I are living in right now.
Okay, let's really get into it. To understand just how huge the impact was, you first have to grasp the sheer scale of this change. This wasn't a gradual shift. It was a complete and total upending of society.
Think about it. For 10,000 years, life was tied to the land. It was rural. Everything was powered by the muscles of people and animals. And then, in what is really just a blink of an eye in historical terms, everything flipped. Life moved to the city, work moved into the factory, and for the very first time, human progress was powered by machines.
And what's wild is how fast this all happened. The real heart of it took place in England, kicking off around 1780 and completely reshaping the entire nation by 1840. That's just 60 years to overturn 60 centuries of tradition. It's just incredible.
So this begs the crucial question, right? Why there and why then? What was it about late 18th century England that made it the perfect launchpad for a global revolution?
Well, it was no accident. It turns out England had this unique combination of factors, a kind of perfect storm of conditions that made it the ideal cradle for the industrial age. Let's break down these key ingredients.
Now, what's really fascinating here is how all these pieces fit together. You had a stable government and a legal system that protected property, which meant entrepreneurs felt safe investing their money. You had economic freedom, inspired by thinkers like John Locke, which fueled the rise of capitalism. On top of that, you had a strong banking system, a huge colonial empire providing raw materials like cotton, and a powerful navy to protect all those trade routes. It was the ultimate incubator for innovation.
So with all those conditions in place, this perfect storm just needed a spark, a catalyst. And that spark came from a single, truly revolutionary piece of technology.
I'm talking about the steam engine. Now, sure, early versions were kind of kicking around, but it was James Watt's perfected design in the late 1700s that was the real game changer. This was the invention that was literally going to power the world.
And the concept behind it is just brilliant in its simplicity. You burn coal to boil water, which creates high-pressure steam. That steam then pushes a piston, and through a clever mechanism, that simple back-and-forth motion gets converted into rotary motion, turning a wheel. For the very first time in human history, we had a power source that wasn't tied to a river, or the wind, or an animal. It was power on demand, anywhere you wanted it.
And its applications, they were just revolutionary. All of a sudden, you could build a factory pretty much anywhere. Steam engines powered giant textile looms, which increased fabric production exponentially. They pumped water out of coal mines, which let us get to more fuel to power even more engines. And of course, they were put on wheels and on boats, making the whole world feel smaller.
And nowhere was this impact more visible than in transportation. George Stephenson's locomotive, chugging along the Liverpool to Manchester Railway, could haul tons and tons of goods at 40 kilometers an hour. That was a speed that was basically science fiction back then. It connected cities, markets, and people like never before.
But this new industrial world, it didn't just create new machines, it created an entirely new society. The changes were absolutely massive, bringing about both immense progress and brand new challenges for millions and millions of people.
With all these people moving from the countryside into the cities for work, these urban centers just exploded. And thanks to things like better sanitation, more available food, and medical breakthroughs like the smallpox vaccine, England's population actually tripled in just 100 years.
Let's put this in perspective. Before the revolution, if you were born in England, your average life expectancy was a pretty grim 35 years.
By the end of this period, it had jumped all the way up to 50. That's a 15-year increase in lifespan in just a few generations. It's a staggering leap forward in human well-being.
Society itself basically split right down the middle into two brand new groups. First, you had the bourgeoisie, the factory owners, the bankers, the inventors.
They became the new elite, and their power was based on wealth, not on aristocratic bloodlines. And then you had the proletariat, the massive new urban working class who owned nothing but their ability to work, which they had to sell to the factory owners just to survive.
So, after all of this whirlwind of technological and social change, what was the ultimate result? What did England actually look like on the other side?
Well, it was, quite simply, the dawn of a completely new era. England was transformed from a nation that mostly just worked the land into the undisputed workshop of the entire world.
The very look and feel of the country was remade. You'd look at the skyline, and instead of church spires, you'd see factory smokestacks. The landscape was carved up by railway lines. The ports were bustling with steamships, and for the first time ever, city streets were lit up at night by gas lamps, making them safer and stretching the day longer. This was, truly, the birth of the modern world as we know it.
And all of that leaves us with a final thought to consider. The Industrial Revolution, powered by coal and steam, laid the foundations of our society. But, the forces of transformation never really stop. So it's worth asking ourselves, what's the engine of our current revolution? What fundamental changes are reshaping our world, right here, right now?